It is hour 3. We've got our little 4-page site running, but our pages aren't connected up. So we want to make a simple header and footer, connect these things up together. So this is something you'll need to do in your assignment. So inside of views, we've already made a games subfolder. We're going to create one other subfolder, and this is where we put our shared views. So inside of views, I'm going to make a new directory, and I'm going to call this partials. Partials meaning we're creating parts of web pages, not complete web pages here. So inside of partials, I want to make 2 new EJS views, a header and a footer. So I'll go into partials, I'll make an EJS view called header. I don't need to give it an extension, it's already got an EJS extension. And then I'll make a footer. So our header is going to basically have everything from the body up will live in the header. So I can get rid of those closing tags. And we'll put on a simple nav section. If we have time, we can add Bootstrap to style it. If not, and it looks bad for today, so what? We'll fix it next week. We'll just add in a nav and a UL, and we'll put in 4 LI tags, links to our 4 pages. Copy that. So our first link is just going to link to slash. That's going to be our link for our home page. And we'll call this maybe then we'll have 3 more links. So this will kind of be like our title. For video game, maybe I'll call it manager. I don't know. Our second link will go to /games. And then our third and fourth links will go to /register and /login. Eventually, we'll change this navbar like we did in our PHP site so that some of the links are public and some are private. When you're not logged in, you won't be able to see the games link. Then you'll see register login. Once you log in, register login will get hidden. The games will show up and log out will also show up. We'll add that later. So there's our header. There's no JavaScript code. It's just plain old HTML. So we'll make a really simple footer. We'll just keep the closing body tag, the closing HTML. We'll add a little footer section with like a copyright statement and maybe the name of the course. And then we'll link these 2 files into our 4 main views. So for footer, we'll just blow that stuff away because it's all going to come from the header. No matter what you say in your footer, we just want something that's going to show up. You can just put in a horizontal rule if you want. So we'll embed these first in index, register, and login. It's going to be slightly different to embed these into this page. Why would it be slightly different? Why won't they all be exactly the same? Devin?
Because it already has a fully formed document in index.
Good guess. No, it's actually, the reason's actually different. What's different about this file from this one, and this one? No. Yeah, the path is different. Thank you, Brittany. Right? Index, register, and login, those are in the root. So the path from here to embed these, it will be different than in here because this one's inside of a subfolder. So we've got to first go up out of the games folder and then into the partials. So our path will be slightly different on games index to get in there. Good answer. Thank you. So let's start with the 3 files in our root. So let's go to index.ejs. We're going to take out everything from the body up. Pretty much did this in our PHP class. We'll put on server-side tags. And now we just use the include function. So in this case, our path is this, / partials and header. We'll include the footer down at the bottom in the exact same way. Remove the 2 closing tags at the bottom. So I could just copy this. We no longer need those closing tags. We want our footer instead. Just make sure after you copy it, you change header to footer. So we don't get a header at the top and a header at the bottom. So this looks really similar to what we did in our beer store pages by including or requiring our header.php at the top and footer.php at the bottom. So now if we go and reload our header, our index page in the browser, we should get our header and footer here. Oh, I've stopped my server because I was uploading to Git, so I just need to reload it. So here's our header with our 4 links. There's our footer. But we now want to add them to register and login as well. Okay, we've only put it on index so far. So let's just copy the header and footer to both register and login. So I will get rid of the top and the bottom. On both register and login. So now we've got our Navbar showing up on all the pages except games. But we can go from home page to register to login. And they all are showing our little footer. We want to include these files on our games index, but we need to change the path because as Brittany said, that file is inside of a subfolder. So we've got to get out of that games folder first before we can go into partials. So our code's going to be really similar, except for one minor detail. We'll paste it in. I'll show you what happens if I run it this way. If I just do the exact same path and try my games page, we get this. So notice where it's looking inside of views, games, partials. So we're still inside of games. We need to get up one more level. So what would I change with this path to go one level higher? No. Good guess. How do you go up one folder in the command prompt? Dot, dot. Goes up one folder. So we start our path with dot, dot, which takes us up out of the game subfolder, back to our main views. And then we can go into partials and load the includes. So only on games index do we need the 2 dots. So you can probably see how quickly you can put this all together. If you think about your portfolio, everything we just did is basically what you need to do for your portfolio. We've built 4 pages, like index comes built in out of the box. We built 3 more views. For your portfolio, you really just need to build 1 more and add some content and add some CSS and you're done. That's it. Okay, so this is almost already a mini version of what you have to do for the assignment. Okay, there's really not a whole heck of a lot of coding involved. I think we've got time. Let's at least style our header and footer. Why don't we go and grab Bootstrap? Now we can use the CDNs for this. Nope. I wouldn't recommend it. This little thing's been up here for months and months and months. If it's not released yet, there's probably a real good reason why they haven't released it, because it's not ready. I mean, if you want to fool around with it, you could, because we're in class. You won't, no harm done. So I'm just going to click the Getting Started link, go to Get Bootstrap and click Getting Started. Let's copy everything here, although we're going to move the JavaScript to the footer, right? So I'll copy the whole thing. I'll open up my header, and inside of here, we'll paste it in. But then I'm going to move the JavaScript, right? It should go in the footer rather than in the header. So we'll leave the 2 CSS links in the header, but we'll cut out the JS and let's put it here where it should go. Okay. So our header's got the 2 Bootstrap style sheet links. So if you're looking for those, just go to, yep. So Tyler, just put the first 2 items in the header and the last item in the footer. Now we should also grab Jquery, because the Bootstrap JavaScript requires Jquery. Our browser, our console will show a JavaScript error if we're using the Bootstrap JavaScript and we don't have Jquery. So we probably also want to zip over to code.jquery.com and grab that CDN link. Code.jquery.com. I'll just right-click here, the minified version. I'll just right-click and copy that link. And I'll put it in my footer before the bootstrapped JavaScript. So in footer. I'll just open up a script tag and paste in that link to Jquery. I have 2 CSS links in my header, 2 JavaScript links in my footer. And Jquery should come first because the Bootstrap JavaScript requires Jquery. And then we can add a couple classes in our header and we should get a proper navbar rather than a bulleted list. So we can see Bootstrap's enabled now. My font changes, my links turn blue. Here's a start. So now in my header, I think if I just add a couple classes, I may have to go to the Bootstrap documentation. We'll see what happens when I use that. And let's go back here. We'll get the class we need. Navbars. So we'll use Navbar, Navbar inverts. We'll have a black navigation bar with white text. And we also need to apply a class to our UL tag. And that class is navbar nav. The other thing we may want to do is actually download these files and store them locally inside of style sheets and JavaScripts. The reason is then our code editor will recognize the classes inside of them, right? When they're remote with the CDN, it doesn't pull up the class definitions for us. I'll leave it with the CDN for now, but maybe next week I'll actually download those files. We can actually even install them with NPM. There is a Bootstrap NPM package, which we could install. So maybe we'll do that next week. Okay, so now we have a proper navbar. And we'll maybe fix the footer down to the bottom. So in my footer tag, we'll add I think if we add navbar fixed bottom, I think that will anchor it down to the bottom. Yep. And maybe we'll just add a, I don't know. I'll add a line above it. What the heck? There we go. So it's starting to already kind of sort of look like a website. We can navigate around. If I had the time or the inclination, we could use Font Awesome and get some icons in our navbar and do all that good stuff. So we really only added 3 classes. We added navbar fixed bottom in the footer, and we added the navbar classes to our nav and UL tags. So the last thing I want to do is actually deploy this to Heroku. We'll get it up and running there. We shouldn't have to make any changes. We should be able to deploy it just as it is. So our code is complete for today. I'm not going to make any more changes. I said maybe next week I'll put Bootstrap and Jquery local so they're a little easier to work with. And our app will be faster because it's not pulling that stuff over the CDNs. Those files will be local. So you want to make a new repository for today. Push your code up there. I already have a repository. Excuse me. So all my code is on GitHub now. Our application's done for today. So I go back to so on Git, here's my completed code. We don't even have to worry about the node modules folder. So I'm going to go to Heroku. Probably have to delete one of the applications I had running previously because I only gives you 5. So I'll delete my lesson 3. Because I don't have space to create another one. So we'll create a new application. I'll just call this, I don't know, COMP2106 game library. Maybe I can just update this same site each week. So I'll create a new application. I'll connect it up to my GitHub repository. So here's my repository with all my code. I'll connect them up. I'll enable my automatic deploys. And I'll deploy the branch. I don't think we even need to add the node build pack because Express has all the configuration inside. We'll try it and see. Yep, it says deployed successfully. View, there we go. So we can go to the games, register, login, and home. So what was that? About 4 clicks on Heroku to get our code from GitHub running. You can also deploy it to Azure. The process is quite similar. There may be 1 or 2. I actually put up a tutorial here on Blackboard in lesson 4. There is both a video tutorial and another link you can look at in terms of deploying to Azure. So this is a 3-minute video walkthrough, and here's an article with the steps. There is one thing in that bin www you need to change. So they walk you through right from creating a brand new site with the generator in this. So these links are on Blackboard. But there is one thing they want you to do, to copy that bin folder and change this path slightly. So Heroku is a bit easier. It's less work to run it on Heroku than on Azure. So for next week for your portfolio, I want to see that you've created the Git repository, you've built the site with the generator, you've made a few commits, and you've at least tried deploying it to Heroku for next week. Site doesn't have to be finished until the week after. I do also want to just show you your lab, which is due Monday. The lab is pretty simple. It's to give you practice. We've kind of done one sample with the Express generator yourself, but before you have to go and do the 20% version, I'm going to give you a small version. So I want you to make a new site, use the generator and EJS and call it lab 3. So the command is just express lab 3 minus E. It'll build out the site with an index page. I want you to create a shared header the way we just did. You don't even have to use Bootstrap. I don't care what it looks like. The links in the header should be the names of the people in your immediate family, so your parents and your siblings. If you have a lot of siblings, just choose your 2 or 3 favorites. If you have no siblings, You can add your pet or your imaginary friend. Okay. You also need to make a view, a separate page for each person. So your header will have the names of your family members, and when I click on them, each view needs to say a sentence or two about that person. Where do they live? What's their job? What do they like to do? Okay, I built out a sample, so here's how it looks. Okay, so it should look something like this at the end of the day. Right, here's my site. I have 2 parents, 1 brother. So there's me, there's my brother, there's my dad, there's my mom. That's it. There's your lab. Yeah, my mom, in fact, couldn't wear a wedding ring to work because they wouldn't keep her on if they knew she was married. So she used to keep her wedding ring in her night table. This was in the 60s. So she was one of the first women to work at IBM, actually. So that's all I want. So 4 simple pages with this little nav bar, right? And then creating the portfolio is easy because it's just a bigger version of this with more content and your own design. Okay, so you have until Monday to do this, but do the lab first because it's going to make doing the portfolio easier for you. Okay, you do not have to deploy this to Heroku. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Just make a private Git repository and submit your code there and give me an invite link. Paste that link. If you get it running on Heroku, great. That's fine. Or Azure, that's good. Not a requirement for the lab. Okay. So all my code is on Git. All the videos are here. Question? You can. If you want to, sure. Go ahead. I mean, personally, I like Jade. I find you have to write a lot less code with Jade, but I found the first time I taught this class, I had the students use Jade, and there was a lot of frustrations with the tabbing and indenting and a lot of time taken up debugging. So I decided to use EJS instead. If you want to use a different engine, you can, but as Artem asked earlier, you can't mix them in one project. So if you're using Jade or something else, that's your template engine for that application. Okay. Are there any other questions about the lab? Is everybody clear on what you need to do? All right, good. I look forward to learning more about all your families. Have a good weekend, everybody. I will see you guys all next week.